Cloudcast Media.
Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show, amplifying the voices of social impact organizations, entrepreneurs, local nonprofits, and other community champions who shape the culture, creativity, and connectivity of San Diego. Brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, bringing good things to San Diego for over 60 years. Learn more about what is good for you and good for all by visiting www.missionfed.com.
I'm Drew Schlosberg of Cloudcast Media, and we are so thrilled to have in the studio today is Chuy, Nunez, Director of Communications and Corporate Engagement for the Monarch School project, but also involved with the CIF San Diego Athletics. He's one of the directors there. How long have you been doing that?
So I had the honor of starting the CIF program at Monarch, and I've been doing it since 2015.
Well, that is fantastic, and we've had a lot of the folks, the commissioners from CIF on our show when we did a prep sports show as well. So how long have you been involved with Monarch? Just same thing, 2015?
No, so Drew, first of all, thank you for having us. It's really good to be here to present our story. So I've been at Monarch since 2004. It was originally a pit stop on my way to law school. I was waitlisted at UCLA and Columbia Law School, and I mentioned that not to toot my own horn.
You should, because those are two prestigious law schools.
Well, but I found Monarch, and that is the scope of the impact of what Monarch does, and it changed my life completely.
Right. How'd you find Monarch?
That's interesting. So when I was waitlisted at the law schools, I had planned on taking that year off, retake the LSAT, knock it out of the park. I wanted to coach a little bit at my old high school, help my former coach.
And what school was that?
I was Sample School High School.
Okay,
yeah,
right,
so
sure. Up by Orange Glen area.
That's it.
Right, Escondido.
Sure. Valley. Yes, sir.
Exactly.
So the goal was to coach for a little bit, and I needed some type of job in the meantime. And at the time, I was connected with the principal of Monarch at the time, Sarita Fuentes, and there was a position for a teacher's assistant / in-house substitute. And from there, the rest is history. And a short 19 years later, I'm still here. You know,
that is terrific. So obviously, there's a big part of your heart for these kids that are in some of these unimaginable situations.
Yes.
And Monarch certainly is nationally recognized, if not worldwide recognized, for working with these students. How many students go through the school?
So right now we have about 300 students.
Right.
K through 12.
Right.
But any given year we can see over 400, in some cases a little bit more.
Right, because people ask me all the time, how does Monarch work? I mean, where do they find the students? I mean, are they sheltered at all, or are they couch surfing? Are they all of the above? Where do you find the students?
Hey, it's all of the above. So the biggest way we find them is really word of mouth.
Right.
We don't advertise, so to speak, but we have great partnerships with local shelters, the Rescue Mission, St. Vincent de Paul, other places. So we do have some students that are living in homeless shelters.
Sure.
We do have some students that are living in motels.
Right.
We do have some students that live in safe lots. For listeners who are not aware of a safe lot is just a giant abandoned parking lot. They're taking over fence, some porta potties, and if you have a car, that stall, wherever you park your car, if you can imagine, that is your home.
Right. As you know, we had our Deacon Jim Vargas on and his colleague right before you. And of course, you guys work shoulder to shoulder, obviously, because in the same space in that aspect, as well. And, I don't think people can really totally grasp, and all I have to do is close your eyes and just imagine that you're in this situation, and through a lot of things that are not your fault, you wind up homeless, okay? Which means if you got kids, then they're in the same deal as well. So when they go to your school, are they going to actual physical building, correct?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We're over 1625 Newton Avenue.
Right.
Pretty much the village or the border, Barrio Logan and East Village.
Right.
Really in the shadow of Petco Park.
Sure.
We can hear the cheers from the stadium and
especially these days.
Right now, right? Yeah, it's these days it's good to be a Padre fan. But yeah, it's a physical campus, brick and mortar, K through 12, like I mentioned, and we've been there in Barrio Logan since 2013. Before that, we were in Little Italy.
That's right.
A storefront And before that, it was a place off of a Broadway where it was a drop-in center, and then it became a really amazing, inspiring story how Monarch came to be.
Well, I think my friend Sandy McBrayer was involved in this, and I've known Sandy for a zillion years, and I'm about 105 years older than you. Jesus, again, we're chatting with Jesus. Chuy Nunez, Director of Communications and Corporate Engagement for Monarch School. Is it called the Monarch School project, or I noticed that's sort of a new moniker?
So it's a little bit of both. So we're the only school of its kind in the country, K through 12.
Of course.
We're a public school. So all of our teachers are contracted through San Diego County Office of Education. However, public dollars only go so far. And we have a nonprofit that works hand in hand with the school aspect. And the nonprofit is called the Monarch School Project.
Gotcha. Okay.
And that's how we provide the wraparound services and everything else that we'll get into.
Right. So one of the organizations I work with is Classroom of the Future Foundation, which is housed at the County Office of Education's new Linda Vista Innovation Center building. And so we work closely with Tony Smith, who was just got hired by Dr. Paul Gothold, the county superintendent, to run the innovation division. And Tony's got the heart of the whole solar system because this is in his space as
Impacting
well.
Story that he has, by the way.
It's amazing. And Paul's is too, for that matter. Most people don't realize that. But these guys are perfect for what they're trying to do with the underrepresented kids. But getting back to Monarch School, so is it pretty much a typical school day? They'll start at 8. They'll do these different courses, obviously depending on what grade level they're at. And then, is there an athletic component of it? Obviously there is, because that's what you do.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And so it is a traditional school, and most people who show up to campus have an idea of what what the students will look like, and most of them are shocked, and there's an inspiring component saying, wow, this is the face of what an unhoused population looks like. And that's one of the big things that we're doing. There's such a stigma around homelessness. And one of the things that we're saying now is we say they're unhoused because it's a temporary situation. And through education, through the arts, through mental health support, through athletics, through a lot of the things that you're going to find here through the educational realm, you can overcome this, and this can be something in your rearview mirror in a few years.
Right, yeah, without question. You've got a pretty inspiring CEO, do you not?
We do.
Talk about it.
We do. She's amazing. So she's on year 2. She was hired really during the pandemic. Afida DeVries. Mm-hmm. She's a mover. She's a shaker. She was involved with United Way for quite some time. She's accomplished quite a bit, and really the goal and what we're trying to do is looking the best way to scale Monarch and what that will look like. The fact that Monarch is the only school of its kind in the country, and there's others that help unhoused youth, but they're either parochial or it's elementary or high school only. But the fact that we're the only ones, K through 12, they're really. That there should be Monarchs in different, unfortunately, right? It's unfortunately, there should be in other major cities across the country.
What do you think the biggest stumbling block for that is? We know there's a lot of things that get associated with, unhoused, people will use that term instead of homeless. And Jim and I, Deacon Jim, talk about it all the time. And, and it's just a mentality that you have to get your hands around with the community at large, saying, hey, you need to be helping in this population. And, through no fault of their own, they're in this situation in many cases in that aspect of it. Is that part of the challenge?
It is. It is. I think one of the biggest challenges is the misconception that people either deserve or want to be in that situation.
We just talked about it. You're spot on.
I bet. And just that, alone in itself, it could take... we could talk about that for several hours.
Correct.
But then also, some of the things that we see is just the rise in mental health cases, mental health difficulties, and which is why Monarch, we're really leaders in mental health support. We have an entire team, and we've actually branched off to several schools and several areas throughout the county, but we have a whole mental health team. We have therapists, we have interns. We're partnered up with other organizations because, particularly post-pandemic, right? We've seen the rise of a lot of these really difficult situations, but a lot of that, just getting past that really mental stagnation, for lack of a better word, that people don't want to be in this situation. No, people don't deserve to be in this situation. No, people don't have option A and B and choose the unhoused option.
Yeah, we come back from break. I want to talk more about that, the mental health aspect of it, because we were having mental health challenges in this country way before the pandemic, and we know that for a variety of different reasons in that aspect. But you guys offer all these great wraparound services besides mental health. You got athletics we talked about, VAPA, visual performing arts is big to you. I love to talk about the family engagement as well. We know how critical that is, and just being engaged, in general. And, having people in this community not look at somebody who's unhoused as, my goodness, they're from outer space, is I'm going to help you. And you know this better than anybody. It's in the DNA of you, Jesus, and of course of your CEO and everyone who works at Monarch, is that it makes such a difference when somebody knows that you actually care about them.
Yes.
That sounds so obvious, but doesn't really work in practice sometimes. Let's talk about that. And then absolutely want to talk about what our listeners can do to support your efforts. All right?
Absolutely. Looking forward to it.
You bet. We're going to be right back with Jesus. Chuy Nunez, he's the Director of Communications and Corporate Engagement for a Monarch School project, working with this venerable school with unhoused youth. We'll talk more about what we can do to greatly support this effort. And you're listening to Drew Schlosberg, Spotlight on the Community Show here on Cloudcast Media, brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, bringing great things to San Diegans for more than 60 years.
When you do your banking with Mission Fed, you get great rates on auto and home loans. That's good for you, but something good also happens for a lot of other people. We're not for profit, so we put money back into the community to help lots of great nonprofits to keep San Diego strong. So you're not just getting something good, you're doing something good. Come to Mission Fed. It's banking that's good for all.
Brand amplification is the DNA of Cloudcast Media, and our code is the powerful blending of sound, voice, and storytelling to lift local brands and their communities. Whether it is our Brandcast, Schoolcast, or Causecast platforms, the unifying ethos is all about this community, the one you call home. If you dare to dream and want to explore the brand amplification of Cloudcast, a national leader in local podcasting and other Winfluence strategies, please visit us at cloudcast.us.
I'm Drew Schlosberg, and you're listening to Drew Schlosberg, Spotlight on the Community Show on Cloudcast Media, brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union. We're here at the Mission Fed studio in Scripps Ranch. Mission Fed's been bringing great things to San Diegans for more than 60 years. Honored to be joined by Jesus Chuy Nunez, the Director of Communications and Corporate Engagement for Monarch School project. So, listen, we were talking about before about mental health. Of course, mental health was exacerbated by the pandemic, but did not start with the pandemic. But you folks are also involved in so many other ways to give some great services to these unhoused youth. Talk about that.
Yeah. So, you talked about this earlier a bit, Drew. Just close your eyes and imagine living. I don't know how many places our listeners lived in throughout high school. Maybe one, or maybe they had a move in a different place. But, just imagine living in 2-3 different places in 1 week, what that does to your psyche, what that does to you mentally. Imagine not knowing, where your next meal is going to come from. Imagine not knowing that on Friday, and I'd never seen, this was foreign to me, that on Fridays, kids didn't look forward to Friday. Everybody looks forward to Friday. We're looking forward to Friday. But students didn't look forward to Friday because they didn't know where the next meal was going to come from. But they knew that Monday they'd get something at Monarch. So one of the things that we see, there's a lot of active trauma that our students are going through. I used to, when I was in the classroom, I used to put up quotes just to get the kids thinking, get them going. And I did a lot of, with history and English language arts. And I put up a Frederick Douglass quote once, and it's the famous quote that says, "It's a lot easier to build strong children than to fix broken adults." And I'll never forget, a student asked, "Well, how do you fix broken children?" And to me, that component spoke so much about active trauma. So again, there's active traumas. What that means is difficult situations that our students are undergoing and overcoming. And that's where the mental health aspect comes in, that yes, we want to teach the A through G requirements, but it doesn't really matter what happened in the War of 1812 if you are dealing with internal wars yourself because of your situation, because of really what you're going through, no fault of your own.
Yeah, without question. Talk about how you work with alumni that have gone through Monarch School, and I imagine almost everyone to a T is going to be, how do I give back?
Yes. So the cool thing, we actually have three alums that work at Monarch now.
Isn't that the best?
They came back and because of what Monarch meant to them. And really, not to put words in their mouth, but they say, I want to do what was done for me for somebody else. And, they've walked a mile in the shoes that our students walk in. And it's beautiful. They've come back, they're connected. We have an alumni, Megan Turner, amazing alumni engagement coordinator, reaches out to our alums that are either in college, trade school, or working or whatever, wherever they may be.
Right, exactly. How many of the students that have gone through Monarch over the years are going to four-year schools?
I don't know the exact number off the top of my head, but we do really push higher education.
Yes, you
and
do.
It's either your community college, your four-year university, or trade schools, culinary arts, anything with the local union. So what we do know is that most of our students who graduate are enrolled in some form of higher education.
Yeah, and talk a little bit about this. Again, it oozes out of your enthusiasm, Jesus, is hope. And trust. And we know that with students and kids that come from abused families, it's tough to trust an adult. It's, because we've not earned their trust because they've seen nothing but pain and all that. Does that happen a little bit with some of the Monarch students?
Well, see, and the awesome thing about Monarch is that the biggest thing for us with our relationship with our students is that they're seen,
right.
They're valued,
right.
They matter.
Right.
And we always say we learn more from them than they learn from us. And, whether our arts program or visual performing arts, we just opened a brand new black box theater down the street from Monarch called the Chrysalis, right? Going along with the same motif of Monarch and transformation and growth.
Sure.
But a lot of that, the arts, the musics, the performances, the songs, the original songs and dance performances that they choreograph, they ooze hope. They talk about really it's all based from trust, and it's all based from just that expression.
Yeah. So talk about athletics. What type of athletics are you doing at the school?
That's my cup of tea.
I know it is.
So we offer traditional programs. So we offer in the fall for CIF.
Sure.
We're part of Division 5. We have girls volleyball, and my girls volleyball team is actually ranked number 2 in Division 5.
Congratulations.
As we speak. So thank you. We have cross country. We have boys and girls basketball. We have track and field. Boys volleyball. We're going to get our soccer program back and running. For our recreation sports, for our young, we have soccer teams for as young as first graders, so second graders. So we offer an extensive program. We do flag football. We don't have the numbers for your traditional 11v11, but right. We want to get an 8v8, the 8-person football later on. But with the sports aspect, we see, and this is where we see, it really debunks the myth of, if they wanted it hard enough, they wouldn't be in that situation. If they competed in all this other stuff, nonsense for lack of a better word. Really, with sports and athletics, we see what happens when something is fair in their lives. And I always tell my athletes, look, the court's the same size, hoops the same height, refs are equally bad for everybody.
Exactly.
Right? And,
of course.
And we see just the growth. We see that, how much they progress when there is a quote unquote level playing field. And we say, look, coachable student athletes become employable adults. Yep. And that is something in the athletic arena that you don't see anywhere else.
No, it's so true. And any of us who played sports, I played sports many, many years ago, even though I look like I've never even got on a court at all. But, I think that is so true. And anyone who's played sports knows how that experience, and, most stop at the high school level, some,
yes.
doing in college a little bit, very few in the pros, but teamwork, collaboration, yes. confidence building, being true to yourself, being true to your teammates, and that certainly transcends beautifully, as you mentioned, in the workplace. We're chatting with Jesus Chuy Nunez, Director of Communications and Corporate Engagement for Monarch School Project. I'm Drew Schlosberg of Cloudcast Media. So what can our listeners do to support your efforts? Listen, we all know that, money is very critical in anything you're working on. And I always tell people, don't be ashamed to ask for money. It turns lights on, it gets you equipment, it gets you to the next level and all that. So money's important. But what else can people do?
And I'm so glad you mentioned that, because really people want to donate where there's impact, right? And just the, logistics, putting it all out there. You can find us on Charity Navigator, 4-star, highest ratings. You can see the transparency. Thank you. You can see the transparency in our financials on our website. We have the highest rating from the San Diego Grand Jury. So you can trust that what is happening, and you can trust that what you donate and what you give actually goes back into the cause. So you can visit us, monarchschools.org. Again, it's plural, monarchschools.org. And there's multiple ways that obviously you can donate monetarily, but we have an amazing volunteer program.
Right.
You can look on there for volunteer opportunities. You go through a brief orientation. You have to do some background checks and different things that's standard school things, right?
Right.
But we have a lot of things, especially with the holidays. We have a giant thing called Project Connect coming up, where we have about 100 turkeys that are cooked for our families. My gym becomes a giant dining hall, which is amazing. We have holiday parties for our students, but there are so many things that we can do. We have a really cool thing. We actually have one coming up next Thursday. It's called a family dinner.
Okay.
And so we have different community groups who come in. We've had, your Rotary clubs. We've had different churches, different organizations. And we do, really what's what it is. It's a giant family dinner, again, in my gym. And we all staff, students, community stakeholders, and we just have a giant family meal.
And your website is?
monarchschools.org.
Okay. You know what I'd love to do? If it's okay with you, and I don't want to break any privacy laws and all this, but we always love to have people that have benefited from the services of the organizations that come in. Deacon Jim has brought some people in that have benefited from their job training at Father Joe's Villages, and people that have worked, in the world of Alzheimer's, and here's a family that's benefited from that. Is it possible to bring in a student and to join you next time to chat about?
We could.
Let's do it.
Yeah, we could. We could even bring in one of the alums that's hired by Monarch.
Let's bring two people in. Let's bring an alum.
Yes.
And let's bring in a current student, and then they can talk about their experiences. And we'd love to do that if that's okay with you.
Yeah, and we would give them a podcast name, of course.
Absolutely. It would be, what we usually do when we have students is use their first name.
Okay.
We just say it's John. That's it. Or Ed, whatever you want to talk. It doesn't make a difference to me. But I think it's important for people to see, you can talk all you want about this stuff, and you guys are doing great things. Now, here's the street cred that does that. Jesus, Chuy, Nunez, what a delight to meet you. Wishing you nothing but great success. It's the first time I've met you, but you ooze this greatness about you and wanting to do great things in the community besides being a big UCLA guy. It's even more important on this. Whatever we can do, I want you to shout out that website one more time.
Yes, thank you again, Drew. It is monarchschools.org.
We look forward to having you and some of your colleagues and some of the students back on, and alumni, as well as you've been listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show on Cloudcast Media, brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, bringing great things to San Diego for more than 60 years.
You've been listening to an episode of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show, amplifying the voices of social impact organizations, entrepreneurs, local nonprofits, and other community champions who shape the culture, creativity, and connectivity of San Diego community. Brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, bringing good things to San Diego for over 60 years. Learn more about what is good for you and good for all by visiting www.missionfed.com.
Cloudcast Media.